Ever wondered what happens when federal muscle meets local sanctuary bells? Curious how hundreds could vanish from city streets overnight? Tom Homan, the self-styled border czar extraordinaire, set his sights on Boston like a hawk spotting prey. In a 5-day blitz from March 18 to March 23, the city's sanctuary shield met a seismic federal hammer, netting 370 individuals in a single swoop. Homan's mission was clear: bulldoze sanctuary policies and haul away anyone tagged as criminal aliens, all while the city's heart pounded with equal parts outrage and fascination. He didn't come clad in subtlety. He rolled in with the swagger of a man convinced that tough talk alone could rewrite local laws. Boston's streets echoed with the thunder of ice boots. Neighborhoods once known for brownstones and clam chowder now tasted of tension and tear gas. Well, metaphorical tear gas, but you get the picture. Housemen's ice teams, flanked by DEA agents and FBI spotters, struck with military precision at dawn. In row houses and tenements, doors flew open, lights blinded shuttered windows, and startled residents awoke to a reality TV-style spectacle none had auditioned for. Gang hotspots tied to MS-13 trembled under federal glare, and even the most brazen suspects had little time to grab their slippers. While the raid's official tally celebrated 205 individuals labeled with significant criminal convictions, the other 165 were swept up as collateral in a storm of sweeping enforcement. Meth, fentanyl, and cocaine, 44 kilograms, 5 kilograms, and 1.2 kilograms respectively, vanished from city bodegas into evidence lair. Patriots of the law cheered victory over the underworld. Critics howled that families, neighbors, and law-abiding workers trembled under the dragnet. No one seemed to emerge unscathed. Mayor Michelle Wu, Boston's resolute sanctuary champion, responded with a dare. At her State of the City address, she declared migrants' rights as ineradicable as the cobblestones lining Beacon Hill. Her speech, laced with righteous defiance, contrasted starkly with Homan's stern assurances. He argued sanctuary policies were shields for criminals, coddling offenders instead of locking them away. As local police hesitated for fear of legal reprisal, ICE surged ahead, leaving a trail of handcuffs and headlines in its wake. Social media exploded. X feeds brimmed with "Homan brings hell," while others lamented Boston under ICE lockdown. Memes of Homan astride a bulldozer barreling through City Hall circulated like wildfire. Neighborhood watch WhatsApp groups buzzed over coffee tables, debating whether to barricade doors next time. In the pulsing heart of the city, an uneasy quiet set in, as residents peered out their windows, wondering whose knock would follow. Beyond headlines and hashtags lay deeper tremors. Businesses described sudden staffing shortages when long-time workers were carried away before daybreak. Schools scrambled to reassure frightened children who knew parents and neighbors no longer walked home from night shifts. Legal aid firms, already stretched thin, found themselves drowning in urgent calls. "My husband is gone, what now?" The quiet roar of community upheaval revealed that Homan's storm did more than break statutes. It shattered routines and fostered a climate of mistrust. Homan's rhetoric painted every surname beginning with a vowel or consonant as a potential menace. Each arrest was a proof of policy's virtue, but every misstep, every person wrongfully detained, was chalked up as collateral in the war on crime. In hushed corners of coffee shops, baristas debated statistics: how many of the 370 had rock-solid criminal ties, and how many were innocent workers caught in a colossal dragnet. The numbers danced like specters. 205 viz, 370 viz, millions of undocumented souls living quietly in shadows. As the dust settled, state lawmakers mulled legislative countermeasures. Sanctuary statutes might be rewritten, beefed up, locked tighter than Fort Knox. Conservative legislators, sensing political momentum, slapped together hearings and subpoenas. Progressive activists organized candlelight vigils outside ICE's makeshift field office in the Seaport District. "You belong here," chanted protesters, echoing Wu's rallying cry and daring Homan's crew to haul them off too. Meanwhile, Homan basked in the limelight, granting interviews with all the gusto of a late-night host promoting a new show. He touted the raid as a monumental victory, insisting every family saved from suffering grave crimes validated the sweep. Journalists pressed him on specifics. What of the workers accused of minor infractions? He deflected with practiced ease. Every law is sacred. Every violation demands accountability. His soundbites reverberated across pundit panels, fueling debates from Capitol Hill cafeterias to neighborhood diners. Boston's sanctuary spirit, once a point of pride, now felt as vulnerable as a paper shield. Homan's operation became the blueprint for raids in New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles. Each sanctuary stronghold waited for the knock. Tensions flared as mayors prepared speeches of resistance, while governors signaled legal challenges. The federal force's message was blunt: sanctuary means nothing if boots can still pound the pavement at will. Within immigrant communities, whispers of underground networks spread. Clandestine guides appeared, offering safe passage to hidden shelters or bus rides out of reach. A silent exodus brewed under streetlights. Families piled into cars with nothing but backpacks, fearing Homan's next act. Churches and mosques transformed into impromptu sanctuaries, offering food, prayer, and secret hiding spots. Echoes of a bygone era when neighbors locked arms to protect one another from tyranny. Yet not everyone mourned. Some Bostonians, citing safety concerns, applauded Homan's crackdown. Neighborhood watches posted thank you notes on boarded-up windows. Local talk radio hosts pounded out hours of praise, citing seized drugs and criminal records as irrefutable proof. The city splintered along lines of fear and relief. For some, Homan's raid was a much-needed purge. For others, it was a descent into lawless overreach. On the ground, ICE agents reported whispered thanks from residents plagued by gang activity. One anonymous agent recounted a woman who handed him freshly baked cookies after her neighbor, long presumed untouchable, was loaded onto a bus bound for a detention center. She said it felt like justice, he recalled. Critics scoffed that such stories masked a darker truth, that fear, not justice, was the real motivator. Every raid, they argued, bred more secrecy and suspicion in communities ICE claimed to protect. As the federal whirlwind moved onward, Boston's streets felt different. Underneath the daily hustle, an undercurrent of wariness pulsed. Neighbors eyed each other with caution. Children asked their parents why sirens seemed louder now. Grocery stores stocked more board games and candles in case lights went out during a midnight operation. The city that once prided itself on its rich history and warm neighborhoods now jittered to the beat of Homan's marching orders. Looking ahead, Homan promised to expand the Blitz, 1,200 to 1,500 daily arrests nationwide. His office drafted a $175 billion 0-cents budget request, eyeing boat deployments and mobile detention units parked outside city halls. Deportations could soar to 300,000 this year, he vowed, painting a new America where every undocumented person trembled at crossing lines drawn in dusty policy papers. Court challenges erupted. Judges in Massachusetts, New York, and California issued temporary blocks on certain removals. Legal scholars debated constitutional boundaries. Did Homan's sweeping powers violate due process? Supreme Court watchers predicted a showdown that might redefine federal reach. Meanwhile, families caught in the middle learned one harsh truth. In Homan's America, sanctuary status provided scant refuge when the full federal storm rolled in. Boston, scarred but unbowed, adapted. Community organizations stepped up, offering legal clinics and emergency shelters. City council members drafted ordinances to withhold local funds from ICE's makeshift offices. Historical societies reminded citizens of past trials, from Tea Party protests to labor strikes, a legacy of resistance etched into every brick. The sanctuary spirit, battered, showed signs of rebirth, but each rallying cry risked drawing Homan's next wave. In the end, Homan did more than execute arrests. He ignited a conversation about identity, safety, and the very meaning of sanctuary. Boston's story, dramatic and fraught, became emblematic of a nation divided. High-energy raids and impassioned defiance played out like a modern epic, with every arrest and protest fueling the next chapter. Boston's aftershocks rippled into new arenas as Homan's ICE juggernaut set its sights on local institutions. Community colleges saw doors burst open at dawn, disrupting morning classes and sending studying parents scurrying to care for detained spouses. Health clinics braced for patients who failed to appear, creating gaps in vital care as frightened families stayed hidden indoors. Church basements transformed into strategy hubs, where volunteers mapped out safe routes and set up phone trees to warn neighbors of ICE movements. In every corner, life adjusted to a new normal, cautious glances out windows and hushed whispers about who might vanish next. Beyond Boston's borders, state capitals trembled at the prospect of similar crackdowns. In Providence, grassroots organizers held candlelight marches demanding gubernatorial intervention, painting signs that read, "No human is illegal," in bold strokes. Hartford's mayor convened an emergency council to discuss sanctuary enforcement, while immigrant leaders pressed for executive orders to protect residents. Transcript hearings echoed debates over state versus federal power as legal scholars dissected Homan's mandate down to every comma. Each capital city became a chessboard, with sanctuary advocates rallying pawns to block ICE's advance. In suburban enclaves, normally tranquil cul-de-sacs hummed with unease. Lawn parties turned into information sessions on ICE's tactics, with neighbors trading tips on avoiding unwarranted doorstep raids. Local PTA chapters hosted sessions where parents drafted emergency contact cards for their children. Sports leagues paused pre-game chats to discuss legal aid contacts and community bail funds. Barbecue smoke mingled with the scent of urgency, and grill masters found themselves hosting strategy meetings in aprons stained with sauce. Meanwhile, Homan's office unveiled flashy new programs to promote community cooperation, ironically mirroring the partnerships he claimed sanctuary cities refused. Community Outreach Initiative, vans rolled through streets plastered with images of smiling agents, offering Know Your Rights workshops. Posters declared ICE's commitment to fairness, featuring cartoon handcuffs paired with earnest slogans about due process. Yet many residents eyed the vans warily, recalling how raids followed soon after every goodwill tour. The outreach felt like a wolf in sheep's clothing, friendly on the surface, predatory underneath. Social media influencers seized the moment, creating viral challenges that critiqued Homan's tactics with satire sharp as a guillotine blade. TikTok creators filmed mock news briefs in which city councils surrendered entirely to ICE, complete with dramatic sound effects and over-the-top reactions. Hashtags like Sanctuary Survival and Homan Who ran posting sprees that mixed humor with pointed demands for change. Local comedians held outdoor roast battles, where ICE policies became punchlines, yet laughter carried an undertone of grief for the lives upended by each arrest. Artists transformed walls and sidewalks into impromptu galleries of resistance. Murals depicted robed Lady Justice figures standing firm against looming ICE badges. Chalk outlines on sidewalks bore protest messages instead of bodies, reminding passers-by of the countless families shattered by enforcement sweeps. Flash mobs interrupted lunchtime crowds in downtown plazas, with dancers wearing orange jumpsuits to represent detainees, moving in unison to the sound of slamming prison doors. The city's creative pulse beat stronger than ever, fueled by both hope and anger. On the media front, cable news shows clashed in wall-to-wall debates that spilled into late-night monologues. Pundits dissected every arrest, questioning whether the sweep targeted genuine threats or convenient political wins. Fact-checking segments scoured Homan's press releases, rooting out discrepancies in his claim of criminal alien tallies. Against this backdrop, local news anchors in Boston donned more somber tones, relaying stories of families torn apart at breakfast tables. Sound bites oscillated between patriotic praise and alarmed condemnations, creating a cacophony that mirrored the city's divided soul. Underground networks sprang up like fungi after rain, connecting migrants with safe homes and legal counsel. Anonymous apps buzzed with alerts when ICE vehicles rolled into new neighborhoods, offering real-time maps of danger zones. Church volunteers repurposed old phone booths as micro-hubs stocked with water, snacks, and chargers hidden in plain sight. Volunteers took rosters to local diners, negotiating Sanctuary Sundays, where patrons donated proceeds to solidarity funds. This web of care stitched community members together, forging bonds in the crucible of crisis. Politicians sensed shifting winds and recalibrated their stances. Some state senators, who once sat on their hands, now championed bills to declare entire state sanctuaries, daring Homan to test their resolve. Others quietly funneled millions into in-state legal services, hoping to blunt the federal assault without triggering headline skirmishes. At public forums, speakers invoked both the city's revolutionary legacy and its immigrant heritage as reasons to stand firm. The political landscape morphed into a volatile tapestry of grandstanding, compromise, and clandestine support. Courthouses witnessed a torrent of writs, injunctions, and habeas corpus petitions. Pro bono lawyers formed rotating squads to flood federal courts with emergency filings, freezing deportations one by one. In makeshift war rooms near the courthouse steps, attorneys pored over case files, racing against ticking removal notices. Judges balanced procedural obligations against humanitarian appeals, some granting temporary stays that saved families from sudden separation. The legal victories were hard-won and limited, but each success became a beacon for the next embattled household. Homan and his deputies responded with an arsenal of countermeasures. Mobile jails on flatbeds appeared outside urban centers, promising to fast-track detainees out of sight and mind. New guidelines broadened the definition of significant criminal history, raising the odds of detention for minor infractions. Internal memos urged agents to prioritize visible deterrence, with publicized arrests meant to send shivers through sanctuary neighborhoods. Even as legal battles raged, ICE doubled down on tightening the noose. Grassroots educators leveraged the crisis to develop civics curricula around immigration rights. In middle schools and high schools, teachers introduced segments on federalism, separation of powers, and constitutional protections. Students debated real-world scenarios drawn from recent raids, grappling with the clash between public safety and human rights. Some students organized letter-writing campaigns to legislators, while others volunteered at legal clinics on weekends. The next generation absorbed lessons in activism as intimately as they learned math or history. Community health initiatives pivoted to address the psychological toll. Therapists offered pro bono sessions to migrants and their U.S. citizen children grappling with trauma. Support groups met in libraries after hours, discussing coping strategies for anxiety triggered by every siren or unmarked van. Clinics distributed multilingual pamphlets on stress management techniques, combining mindful breathing with culturally resonant advice. These efforts underscored that raids inflicted wounds deeper than physical detentions. They wounded the mind. Across New England, solidarity caravans rolled down highways, featuring buses painted with protest slogans, towing speakers and banners. Caravans converged in Hartford, Providence, and Manchester, forging a multi-state chorus of disapproval. At each junction, local activists greeted caravans with speeches, music, and food. The caravan's momentum illustrated that Homan's reach might be vast, but collective action stretched even further. International observers tuned in with mixed reactions. Human rights organizations issued statements decrying mass criminalization of migrants, echoing charges of due process violations. Some foreign governments decried the raids as counter to global norms on refugee protection. Others lauded the US for tough stances against transnational crime. Boston's drama thus joined a wider narrative about sovereignty, borders, and the values nations choose to uphold. Faith leaders found themselves in moral crosshairs. Many churches, synagogues, and mosques declared unconditional sanctuary, sheltering families at risk of ICE sweeps. Some clergy faced threats of prosecution for harboring undocumented worshippers. Interfaith coalitions formed to distribute resources and legal counsel, framing their work as spiritual duty. Sermons invoked ancient texts on hospitality and compassion, challenging congregants to act despite potential legal peril. Meanwhile, Homan eyed the horizon for the next battleground. Rumors flew of plans to roll out drone surveillance over sanctuary zones, watching doorsteps from above. Automated license plate readers could be networked statewide, feeding data into real-time alert systems. Advocates warned that tech upgrades risked turning every street corner into a digital gauntlet. The future of enforcement looked less like boots on ground and more like eyes in the sky. As the storm approached its 6th month, Boston's economy felt both strain and strange resilience. Some businesses shuttered due to staffing crises, while others pivoted to hire locally, tapping into the undocumented workforce's solidarity networks. Underground markets for translation services, legal counseling, and safe house days flourished, operating outside official channels. The city's informal economy thrived, even as its official channels stuttered. In the end, the saga of Homan's invasion reminds us of a simple truth. Power looks different depending on where you stand. For some, federal raids spelled order and protection. For others, they were thunderbolts in a sky once bright with promise. Boston's response? a swirl of defiance, compassion, and discord, showcases a community unwilling to let its identity be bulldozed. As Homan recalibrates strategies, the city's mosaic of voices will keep clashing, creating new harmonies of protest and policy. In the weeks following Homan's blitz, a new battleground emerged in the digital realm, where hackers and privacy advocates mobilized to shield vulnerable communities. Encrypted messaging apps saw record downloads as users shared real-time alerts about ICE vehicle movements, while open-source developers crafted simple programs that automatically blur faces in live-streamed footage of raids. Neighborhood data cooperatives even pooled publicly available drone footage to map ICE patrol patterns, turning surveillance tech back against its creators. This guerrilla approach to information warfare kept agents guessing and demonstrated that, in the age of big data, knowledge truly is power. As Homan's forces prowled city streets, tech-savvy residents met force with firmware. Meanwhile, cultural fronts opened up unexpected alliances. Local breweries brewed sanctuary stout with proceeds funding legal defense funds. And art collectives staged pop-up exhibitions inside empty storefronts to commemorate those detained. A dance troupe performed Cuffs and Caffeine, a flash mob in coffee shops dramatizing morning raids, complete with exaggerated mime routines of agents checking shoelaces and confiscating pastries. Looking ahead, Boston faces a delicate balancing act between resilience and retaliation. Homan may refine his tactics, deploying AI-driven predictive analytics or expanding mobile brigades, but the city's mosaic of resistance has already proven adaptive and resourceful. In every whispered alert, every mural painted in defiance, and every encrypted message sent under cover of night, Bostonites reaffirm that sanctuary is more than a policy, it's a collective mindset. So, if you've been riveted by this rollercoaster saga, don't just watch the next act. Join the conversation, smash that subscribe button, tap like to keep this energy alive, and drop your hottest takes in the comments. Let's turn these words into action and write the next chapter together.